Well, hello everybody. How you doing? Dave Fennoy here, and once again, it is Ask Dave Fennoy Anything here on Facebook Live. And once again, welcome in. Hope you've got questions. And have I gone live yet? Yeah, I've gone live. Usually see more. Oh, there we go. Hey, Timothy, what's going on, man? I'm going to talk a little bit today about a sad end, a surprise for everybody, the demise of Telltale Games. I'm going to talk about it as my association with them for several years over a lot of games. And specifically, I'm going to start talking about the Walking Dead game and how that came to be. And ordinarily, I don't talk about my career so much as I answer your questions and talk about things that might help you. And maybe there's something in this that might help you. The character Lee Everett has become kind of legendary in the video game world. People tell me all the time it's one of their favorite characters. They developed an emotional connection with Lee and Clementine in the Walking Dead game. And I knew in the first 20 minutes of recording, although I'd been on 70 or 80 games by that time, I knew then that this was something very different, a script that was much more in-depth, a character that had much more depth to this character. This was a character that was hiding things, that wanted to redeem himself. His life had gone bad. But in that first 20 minutes reading the script, I knew it was special. I didn't know how special it was going to be. Turns out we won more than 100 Game of the Year awards. I was nominated for a number of awards for performance as a character in a video game, won a couple. And after that first season, I got to travel with the two principals and several other people from Telltale Games to London for the BAFTAs. We were nominated in a couple of categories, I for Best Performance, Melissa Hutchinson for Best Performance. And it was a singular moment. I remember thinking in London, sitting there in the room as the awards were being given away, that this is the kind of thing you don't expect to have happen in your career. It's the kind of thing that may be a one-time only event, and take it in. And I did. But a little more about Telltale Games now. They really changed the course of video games with narrative. The Walking Dead game wasn't the first narrative game they had done. All the games they did were narrative games, stories where you got to make choices about what you did, and they were committed to that. And when we think about entertainment for human beings, this was on the cutting edge of what's new in entertainment in thousands of years of entertainment. When you think about it, entertainment from the time cavemen were telling lies about how big that mastodon was, through Aeschylus and Menander and Shakespeare and Chaucer and television and movies, an audience sat, watched, listened. At the end, they clapped. Oh, that was wonderful. Or went, oh man, that was a mess. But audiences never got to make choices about the stories that they were experiencing. And in video games, this is where interactive entertainment really came to life. As a matter of fact, the official name now, video games, is interactive entertainment. I don't know, still call them video games. And Telltale went from being, that interesting little company up there in Northern California to one of the most influential companies in the video game world. It took me from being a character actor in video games that people knew I worked. They'd go, oh, yeah, that guy, to, now BAFTA-nominated Dave Fennoy, kind of like the actors, Oscar-nominated, those character actors that you loved them forever, but you didn't know who they were, what their names were, and then they get that project that's perfect for them, and whether they win the Oscar or not, the nomination was enough. Once you're nominated for something like that, you have won. So it's kind of a sad day. The other day when got news that Telltale very unexpectedly closed up shop. There are a few people there still doing some things. There is an effort to continue a couple of the projects. The Walking Dead game was in its final season and has not been finished. There's some effort to make sure that the Walking Dead game gets the closure that thousands and thousands of fans would like to have. Now, about the story, that's all I can tell you. There may or may not be another Wolf Among Us. Don't know. But just because I have so many great friends that I met, voice actors and people who worked at Telltale, I want to wish all of them the best. I got a call from one of the principals today, Dan Connor. Thank you so much. It was great talking to you. It was great being a part of the Telltale family, and I don't know why I'm getting a little verklempt. Hate to see you guys go. But on the bright side, the explosion of Telltale games means that lots of Telltale DNA is going to be spreading through lots of game development companies throughout the country, maybe even the world, to influence some of these other game companies into the narrative, into telling better stories. And I think right now, finishing up those last couple of things and having Telltale people spread around in the industry, that's about as good as it's going to get. All right, let's talk about voiceover. Now, you've had all that time I'm telling this story to get some questions going. Happy to see so many folks. Hey, Stephen, how you doing? Aaron Nurse joined. What's going on, man? Dustin, Doc, Sam, Jen, Lee Michaels. Lee Michaels, by the way, legendary radio programmer. One of the best that ever did it and got away with it. I never got the chance to work with you, Lee Michaels, but I always wanted to when I was in radio and always thought you were great. Hey, Pamela, Gary, Sophia, just did a little coaching session with Sophia. Sylvia, my old neighbor, Steve Bailey. Okay, I think we're getting to some questions here. Stormwaters, I've seen other companies pulling for the displaced employees. The support they're showing is pretty amazing from what I've seen. Okay, back to Telltale. Yeah, it absolutely is. It was a tremendous crew of people. I'll tell one more story, but you get into voiceover, you got some questions, put the questions there so I can answer some things for some people. Because this isn't really supposed to be about me and my career. It's supposed to be how I can help you with information about your career. As I mentioned, that first 20 minutes in the studio, that first script, I knew this was something special. Oh, you know what? Let me back up. I wasn't their first choice. Yeah. I was not the first person Telltale looked to bring Lee Everett to life. I don't know who the other person is. Don't want to know. But they had recorded a full episode, listened back, checked it out, looked at it, and went, ooh, this isn't working. We need somebody else. And Javier Espinoza, who was working there at the time, saw me on the Law and Order game that Telltale had done and said, hey, let's give this guy a shot. I got the audition, turned it in. A week later, got the word, hey, you're going to be Lee Everett. We're going to start recording a month or so, and the rest is history. So the lesson in that, I guess, is sometimes you get stuff and they go away, and sometimes you didn't get something and it comes your way. So audition, 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 audition. Always do your best work. You've heard me say, if you've been in a class of mine, there are no auditions. There are only performances. The people who hire are not going to be looking past a mediocre performance to a wonderful voice. The wonderful voice isn't what is going to get you the job. And even when it does, sometimes that is a Pyrrhic victory. I mentioned this story a few weeks ago or a couple weeks ago. I was in a session and they were telling me a guy that came in with a great voice who'd been hired by the company because they loved his voice. And then they went to the production side and the guy couldn't deliver. Well, now everybody in the production side knows this guy's name. They know he can't act. It's going to be tougher for him from now on. Even if he takes some classes and gets his program together, the memory they're going to have of him is that he could not deliver. And folks are going to be gun shy about hiring him. Make sure when you do an audition, you haven't Frankenstein together this sentence, that sentence, this sentence, that sentence. You really need to be able to maintain a decent length of that commercial, that narration, that video game character, that animation character, whatever it is. If you can't do it without a whole lot of editing, maybe that's not the part for you. Because once you're in the hot seat, as it were, if you're not sure of yourself, you're going to have that little voice in your brain just getting in the way of everything because you're nervous. Gosh, you know what you did, so be careful. All right. After the Father's Day training last year, I got a short gig with Funimation. Thanks. Well, you're welcome, Ron. Hey, nice to know that somebody I worked with is doing well. Actually, I have the good fortune of hearing from a lot of students that tell me that I help them with something and, turn something around for them in their career. So, yay! Is The Walking Dead your favorite game to be a part of? It is actually in a lot of ways because it gave me so many gifts. I got to play a great character. The game won a lot of awards. I won some awards and got some notoriety. So, yeah, for a lot of reasons, yeah. Flycatcher in The Wolf Among Us was my first video game role. Huge gratitude to Telltale. Hey, Dustin. Somebody else saying thank you. Jason Leach. Who do you feel you have learned the most from? Either person, group, other source. Wow, that's a very good question. Early on, when I first came to town, I was doing a lot of promos and some movie trailers, as well as cartoons. But I spent some time with Maurice Tobias. And she was very helpful. A number of years later, the economy had crashed back in 2009. You remember that? The economy crashed. My two biggest clients went out of business. My income dropped in half. I was over-leveraged like a lot of Americans were. I had to sell my house, made no money, move into a condo for a little bit before I was able to turn it back around. What was that question again? I lost I decided that it wasn't going to be helpful for me to keep blaming the economy, despite the fact that the economy was one of the reasons I was in the shape I was in. I decided that I needed to do the same things I did when I started my career to reinvigorate my career. And I took Nancy Wolfson's whole package. And it helped me not only with my commercial reads, but it helped me in the video game world, because one of the things she stresses, that I always stress, is reality. Now, she and I differ in approach. Her approach is very technical. You're saying it this way because of this. You're saying it this way because of this. And this part of the commercial is this, and this part of the commercial is that. But the thing that worked for me was getting out of listening to my voice, getting out of being that guy, making sure that everybody heard every word, because there are times you're going to do that. There are times that's going to work on a project. But that's not where we are as a society now. We're very casual, and we don't necessarily want to listen to experts. And we certainly want to relate. And what's relatable is people talking like regular people. And that was a big help. And that's one of the things I help people with now. We spend way too much time worried about the words and how we're going to say them, as opposed to who am I, how do I feel about this, what's my attitude, and allowing that to drive what happens to the words. I guarantee if you come from the place of this is who I am, this is what I'm saying and how I feel about it to this person, you'll go a longer way. You won't develop the read that 2 years later the read is no longer working for you, and what, I now have to get a new read? No, you're being you, or learning how to bring characters to life through what they're thinking, feeling, their attitude, the action that's going on, and the person they're talking to, and all of that. Anyway, Billy Schaller, is that the ribbon microphone or condenser that you use? No phantom power will ruin a bit. No, I don't have a ribbon microphone. I've thought about getting one, but I haven't convinced myself to do it. Now, this is a 416. This is just a pop filter there that you're seeing, and then the tip of the 416 right there. Randy Lab, best way to get a reputable agent. I'm in LA doing radio almost 3 years now. Thank you for being here to ask. The very best way, there's a number of ways, and why would somebody be calling me now with no caller ID? I just don't answer those. No caller ID, why should I answer? The best way to get an agent is to already have an agent. Okay, that's best, and that's not what you want to know. Are you working already? If you're working already, you can contact an agent and say, hey, listen, I'm doing this work. I would like somebody to represent me with this work. And now the more work that you're doing, the easier that will be, because what does an agent want? They want somebody who's working that they can make that 10% of. Let me open that door because it's a little warm in here. That they want 10% of. So if you have clients, and a lot of people do, a lot of people have begun their careers without the benefit of the union, without the benefit of an agent, and now they're at that jumping off point where to get up to the next level, they need agent, they need union. If you're coming with work, great. Now, what if you're a person who isn't working? You really need to have a killer demo, and it's got to be super, because the people that you are competing with for the attention of that agent are the people who are already working and all the other people who are knocking on the doors. So many people are sending demos now. Agents, don't have that much time to listen, so they only listen at particular times of a week or month. And very quickly, if that demo is not up to par, out it goes and you'll never hear from them. Sometimes they've listened to a demo and they go, this person's pretty good, but we have somebody just like them. I'll write them a letter and say thanks, but no thanks, and send them on their way. Well, if that happens, keep the conversation going. Another good idea besides, cold sending your demo, which, I mean, it's a shot in the dark in a lot of ways because they're not always listening every day. And sometimes those emails get lost. Sometimes they're just not looking for anybody. Another good way is if you've been working with a coach that has the respect of some agents, you might get a suggestion from that coach of who you might approach. And perhaps that coach would be willing to, write you a letter or allow you to reference them when you send your demo. If you're sending a demo and you're referencing another agent, somebody that's a good coach, somebody that's respected in the business, maybe there's a better chance that they're going to listen. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to sign you, because I've sent some people to my agent. Sometimes they've been signed, sometimes they don't. And it's a rare thing for me to do. You're asking somebody a lot to say, yes, sign this person. And usually I have to be really excited about you to do that. So, that answer it? Good. Good luck, Randy. And keep knocking on the doors. Once again, I'll go back to that. You sent it in, they listened, they said, oh, you're pretty good, but, not right now. We're not looking for anybody. You sound like some people we have, blah, 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 blah. Keep in touch with them. You get some gigs, let them know from time to time. Let them know you're still looking from time to time. If you get another agent, let them know you signed with such and such an agent and, still thank them for their consideration. Go to the industry functions where you can meet agents and, let them know, remind them that all those things, all the political things, we are but human beings. So anyway, just launched my website. Do I need to register it with Google? What do I need to do for search engine optimization? I wish I were the expert at that. I am not. I know there are a lot of places that you can Google optimization, Google. There's a lot of places you can Google to get that kind of information. I'm sorry, I don't have it. But that's a good idea. That's a good idea. I wish you luck with that. How to get a voiceover agent? Well, Doc, I know you were listening, so you heard. Jason Leach, excellent answer and information. Thank you again. Randy Levick, public radio. I don't know why you just said that, but is that where you've been working? What did I miss? Anyway, I like public radio. Good to see you too, Michael Scott. So don't just arbitrarily say Dave Fennoy sent me. Got it. No, do not do that. Do not do that. And I know there's some people that are, but guess what happens then? If they got the demo and they like it, they're going to call me up or send me an email and they're going to say, oh, wow, Dave, thanks for sending me so-and-so. It was so great. In which case you may get away with it, because if they really liked it, I might not say anything. I might not sell you out. But if I get that email that says, Fennoy, you really recommended this person, this, Joe Schmo, this demo was terrible. Well, guess what? I'm going to rat you out. No, I did not send them to you. I don't know who they are. And if I do know who you are, well, we're going to have some words. Yeah. What industry function events do you recommend attending? Well, what a perfect segue. Coming up, is it in November? It's in November. We have That's Voiceover is going to be in L.A. this year. And that'll be on Saturday, and on Sunday it'll be the Voice Arts Awards, where we voice artists get to pat ourselves on the back and hand out awards for great performances and great demos. I'll be on a couple of panels, I'm sure. I've been a judge on a number of things, some audio books, and I've heard some really good stuff. And everybody who has submitted and has been nominated, I'm wishing you luck. But I'll be there. But back to the business of it. One, you want to go to That's Voiceover. Uh, I'll give you another one that I really like, Voiceover Atlanta, which will be in March. I like going to those. One, you're going to meet the people you want to meet. And I'm not just talking about coaches and agents. I'm also talking about other voice actors. If you don't know already, the people who are going to help you the most outside, the people that are going to be giving you information that you don't have, teaching you how to do the things you need to do as a voice artist, are your fellow voice artists, the people who will be sharing their information. And even more than that, this can be a lonely business, especially now since we all have home studios and you're locked up by yourself in your little cubicle and, oh gosh, what do I do? Why is it not working? Well, when you have people who are in the business and they are up or coming up with you, you have somebody to talk to. You have somebody to share those thoughts and feelings with. I know in a voiceover workout group that I started years and years ago, I just wanted to be able to practice with people whose ears I trusted. And what I discovered was that was great. But what was also great was the camaraderie, the having someone to talk to who understood what you were going through. When you're doing this and you're not booking for a while, it's connected not only to your ego, it's connected to your finances. It can be problems with, your family if you're married and your husband, your wife, just living with somebody, your boyfriend, girlfriend. People can wonder, well, why are you still knocking on these doors? It's been 6 months, you haven't done anything. And actually 6 months isn't that long starting a career to get something going. I've seen people go that long and then something happen and they get in the groove and move on up. That's important. You need somebody who understands and can settle you down. Your mama, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, husband, and wife, if they're not in it, they don't understand. They don't know how to say what they need to say to help you, and they might not want to help you. They might want to see you back at your government job or something like that, so the money's coming in steady. Meanwhile, that would suck out your soul. Okay, you asked what I'm doing currently. Oh, yes. Okay, that's what, public radio. Thank you, Randy. Evan Richard, a friend of mine wants to know what are some of the, asking for a friend. A friend of mine wants to know what are some of the best voiceover coaches to learn voiceover in LA. I'm trying to decide if I want to give out a list or not. There are quite a few. You know what? Go to, sign up and go to That's Voiceover and look at who's there, or even just look at the roster there. Look at the roster and maybe several rosters from VO Atlanta. Ask some of your voiceover friends. I would put myself on that list. I would put Nancy Wolfson on that list, and I mentioned her because I mentioned her already today. Maurice Tobias I would put on that list. I also mentioned her today. But there's some good people. I want you to do a little more homework on that than just have me spill out a bunch of names. All right? All right. Would you consider or are you working on creating any video game or other voiceover projects? Please tell. I always have something going on up here. I have some game ideas. I need to sit down with a game developer and get them started. So far, only ideas, nothing that is in production. All right. Hey, did we run out of questions here? Come on now. Let me go back up to the top, see what I got. Okay. Wow. Well, I guess we're going to have a short night. Gonna wrap up here then. I'll not this weekend, next weekend. I'll be in Marin County in Sausalito, teaching at Voice Track San Francisco. And this is kind of a full circle thing. When I was a disc jockey in the Bay Area and wanting to get into voiceover, I took classes at Voice Tracks San Francisco. Samantha Paris is a lady who runs it. She was a voiceover artist down here who moved up there in the 80s. And thankfully, because of her, I ended up in L.A. when I ended up in L.A. I had taken a workshop. One of her agents, Lee Gilbert, who was at Sutton, Barth, and Venari at the time, came up, taught a workshop, and said, you know, you're kind of talented. If you ever decide to move to L.A., we'd like to represent you. And I'd already made up my mind I was going to do that, but since I was a morning jock on KSOL at the time, I'll do that a little bit later. Well, as things happen in radio, I and the rest of the on-air staff got fired. This was 2 or 3 months later. I had to go looking for a card, found it, called her up, asked her if she was serious. She said, yes, get a new demo, get your butt down here. And so I started, you know what, this is a good story. And it has ramifications for you. I started driving down here to Los Angeles from San Francisco. I think that was in May. I'd gotten fired in February, talked to her late February, got the demo done by May, and they said, "Man, come on down and sign." Well, I drove down and got there on a Monday morning and went into SBV, and I had to wait for about half an hour before I could go through the paperwork, and I was not happy. Perspective, I was the luckiest guy in the world. I should have been very happy. Oh, yeah, no, I'll wait an hour because that really changed my life. While I was there, several celebrities that they represented came through, and my eyes were big. And one of my heroes from my childhood, Ernie Anderson, who was the voice of ABC, The Love Boat, he was that guy. And he's no longer with us, rest in heaven, or wherever. Got to meet him, and hi, wow, Ernie Anderson, how are you? I'm Dave Fennoy. I'm just signing here, and you know, I grew up in Cleveland. You were the voice of Channel 5 and Ghoulardi. I loved you, man. And he said, yeah, thanks, kid, and went on. But for the first 8 months that I was in, that had come down to Los Angeles, I still had a house and a family in Northern California. So what I would do was I would drive down to Los Angeles on Sunday night or Monday morning and drive back on Friday afternoon or Saturday morning. I did this for about 8 months. I slept for a month on a buddy of mine's couch from high school. I slept another month on my aunt and uncle's couch. Or no, they had a bedroom. In their house. I finally got a cheap apartment in the Valley with another voiceover actor from San Francisco who was trying to make a go of it here in Los Angeles. But imagine that, driving every week back and forth. I had a little Toyota MR2 that I put thousands of miles on. Got a few tickets because I got a heavy foot. But that's the kind of commitment that you have to make to something you really want. The things they're going to be really special in your life, you're going to have to do something other than what you're doing now. I know you've heard this before. The definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. If something's not working for you, if you're not booking, if it's time to do something else. That might be taking a class. It might be getting some private coaching. But you need to do something else. About that same time, actually before I started coming down, I had a buddy of mine from high school who was the cartoon director for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And we had not been in touch in years. Just happened to find out where he was and what he was doing when we talked. And he said, put a demo together and I'll send it to some people. And I put a demo together before I was fired from the radio station. And it was Zoltar, Zoltan, the warrior, and I was Zoltar. I was his comical sidekick. I was the bad guy. The bad guy's heavy and all the other little parts. And, I got sound effects and music and put together about a 2-minute little thing with Zoltar and an adventure and sent it down. And he got back to me a week later and said, well, you know what? It actually was good. I didn't know what to expect. But since it is good, I'll hook you up with some auditions. So I got 3 auditions. This is before I started driving back and forth. 3 auditions for cartoons. And I would always have to do them in the afternoon because I would drive from the Bay Area, the 350-something miles down here, to do the audition. The audition would take 5 minutes. Then I'd get in my car and drive back. And I told people this, do it in the classes a lot. How many of those do you think I booked? Not one. Not one. But I was still excited. I'll tell you why. Because I was in the game. I was auditioning for cartoons that were going to be on air. And that's what you want. You want to be where you are demonstrating what you can do at the very highest level that you can. And it doesn't get any higher than Saturday morning cartoons. I know that sounds a little weird, but yeah, it doesn't get any higher than Saturday morning cartoons. And once I got here for real, I did book Saturday morning cartoons. So there we go. All right. Lee Gilbert has been my coach and mentor for over 5 years. She is one of the best to learn VO from, and she helped produce excellent demos for her students. She is. Love Lee Gilbert still. And so, Evan, tell Lee Gilbert I said hello. And I think we're getting down to it here. Guess I'm going to call it a night. We don't have a pile up of questions. Once again, you can visit my website, davefennoy.com. You want to do some private coaching or find out where I'm going to be teaching, go to the little tab, Study VO. Do that. And next Wednesday, I'll be here again. Hope we have more questions than we had today. I feel so bad when I don't get more questions. Anyway, all the best to you guys, and hope you book something.